Feast TV is brought to you with support from Missouri Wines, Whole Foods Market, L'Ecole Culinaire, the Raphael Hotel, and New Season Spa and Salon.
Cheese, glorious cheese. In this episode, we are exploring artisan cheese from start to delicious finish. I'm Cat Neville, and this is Feast TV.
In our cheese episode, we are going to be exploring 3 different creameries that produce cheese in very different ways. And right now I'm in St. Genevieve at Chalmette Winery. Chef Rob, you are very focused on bringing local foods here to the winery, in particular cheese, because clearly wine and cheese are
a match made in heaven.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And so why do you bother to go directly to Beachey Farm and source from them?
Well, aside from them being just fantastic people, they produce some of the best goat cheeses that I've ever eaten. And I've had the luxury of eating a lot from different around the world in different parts of local creameries. And they produce cheese in a French style, and we produce Missouri wines in a French style. And it just makes perfect sense.
And so how do you kind of see these different wines pairing with these different cheeses?
Well, traditionally, the lighter the item, the lighter the cheese. So we take some of the fresh cheese, the softer, that have, I guess, less of the pronounced nuances of age, and we'll pair them with, say, our Chardonnay Reserve or our Bouvet Blanc. The things that are a little bolder, that have some ripeness to it, we'll add, I would say with the Norton or the Chambersons, a little more fruit forward. So we put those together. And then if it's deep and rich and a little on the blue tent notes, we could pair it up with our port.
That's great. So Marcoot is another creamery that you've worked with. So tell me about the flavor profile of those Marcoot cheeses.
To me, the grocery store mozzarella is just flavorless. It just has almost a rubber characteristics, whereas the Marcoot is creamy, it has the right salt content, and you can just taste it from the cows that are produced right there. I mean, it's just amazing. It's their diets, it's huge, but the taste difference is incomparable to the average store-bought fresh mozzarella.
Are you hungry yet? Well, I definitely am. So let's go over to Marcoot and see how those gorgeous cheeses are made.
Good morning from Marcoot Jersey Creamery. We got up at the crack of dawn to come out here and visit a 7th generation family farm. We're going to meet 2 of the daughters today who came back to what was a commodity dairy operation to transform it into an award-winning creamery. So, Jersey cows, obviously Marcoot Jersey Creamery.
Right.
But what does it mean to have a Jersey cow as opposed to a Holstein?
We've always had Jersey cows in our family, so there's that importance to it. The quality of a Jersey cow varies from other breeds. They do a really great job of producing excellent quality milk, and they have a higher butterfat and protein in their milk. For us, for cheese making, because of that extra protein, the extra fat, we get a larger yield.
And so even though they're giving you less volume because it has more butter fat, you're actually getting a higher yield because that's what you're pulling out of the milk?
Yeah, we want the cows to be very comfortable, very happy. We want them to continue to produce a high quality product, so we choose to graze them. And that works great for us here because we have the pasture, we have the land. As the dairy industry goes up and down, and a lot of dairy farmers are getting older, they choose to not milk anymore. So we came back to the farm to continue on our family heritage and tradition of having Jersey cows.
So Amy,
Kind of give me the backstory on how all of this came to be for your family.
We are a 7th-generation dairy farm. My sister and I are the 7th generation. My family came from Switzerland in 1842 and had a Jersey calf on the boat with them. My dad took over this farm whenever he was 17 years old. My parents had 4 daughters. They told us all to go to college, to come back for a visit, but don't stay on the farm. And about 8 years ago, my mom called me while I was living overseas and said they were going to sell the farm whenever he was 60. And at that point, we said, we don't want that to happen. I have a master's degree in counseling. Beth has a master's degree in education. That wasn't really our plan A, but whenever the reality of losing the farm became really real, it was obvious that we weren't going to let that happen.
And previous to the cheese making operation, it was just a dairy farm.
Just a dairy. We sold to the co-op for commodity milk prices.
By becoming a creamery,
Right.
you are creating a value-added product.
Exactly.
And an artisan product.
That's right.
And you're becoming a bigger player just in your community.
Absolutely. The ability to provide more jobs for our rural area, the ability to create something that brings tourists into our area, and then we could send them into the local economy. It just built everything up around it.
What is amazing to me about cheese is that you start with the same thing. You start with milk from your beautiful Jersey cows. How is it that the same milk can be turned into a Gouda or Scarmoza or like these different things? What is it that you do to shift it up?
So in cheese making, it's time, temperature, and pH. We're gonna receive the milk and we're gonna look at it. We're gonna make sure that everything, it looks great, it smells great, tastes great. And then we add cultures to it. And then how long we let the culture ripen, how long we let things work, and then the process of it. So all of those things play into cheese making.
I think it's interesting also that you have a Swiss design. What is a Swiss style cheese as opposed to maybe French or Italian?
Sure. Well, it has distinct Swiss characteristics, which most of us know what a baby Swiss tastes like. A lot of the distinction also comes in the caring for the cheese as it aged, but also how you make the cheese. Part of what we wanted to do whenever we built this cave was to make aged cheeses that resembled our heritage. Now, it's not going to be possible for us to make a true Gruyere or true Appenzeller, but we can make Swiss cheeses here and try to just respect where we came from.
So have you found that over the past 6 years that the consumer is more educated? I mean, do you think
Absolutely.
what do you think is really kind of feeding into that?
People are just really becoming interested in understanding where their food came from. I think part of it came from the recession, even though I think it was already happening before that, but people realizing that we need to invest into our local economy. And buying good food locally is a very easy way to do that. And they're excited to know the people that are behind the product. The fact that people could come to our facility and see us making the cheese, see my dad who's milked cows for 47 years, that makes them feel really nice. And we want that for people. We want them to know what we're doing and be very transparent about what we're doing.
It was such a pleasure to be able to visit with the family at Marcoot Jersey Creamery. What they've done to transform that farm from a commodity dairy into an award-winning creamery, it really is a model for what other family dairies can do. And to see another approach to what can be made with Jersey cow milk, let's head to Owensville, Missouri to Cool Cow Creamery. I think you're really going to enjoy meeting the guys behind these cheeses. We drove down a gorgeous, windy 2.5-mile gravel road to come here, the Brinkman Farmstead, where Cool Cow cheese is made. I don't have to wear a hairnet this time, which is lovely. I'm wearing a baseball hat, and we are going to be able to see how this wine country cheese is made from start to finish. Let's go inside and check it out.
I don't know if you know much about this place, but we bought it about 4.5 years ago, and we didn't know. We were buying an antique barn that has perfect provenance. And then we have a little store, and then upstairs we have a bed and breakfast. You want to look around?
I would love to look around.
Come on.
This is charming. Oh my gosh.
So we made it so people would really understand that it's a farm. This is agritourism at its best.
So you invite people to come out here, and do they get to participate in
Absolutely.
cheese making?
Are they cheese making? Sometimes it's card playing, but the most fun we have is taking selfies with the pig and milking cows.
That's great. So you have a pig here too?
Yeah, we have a pet pig that we can't seem to get rid of. We had two, and one had an accident and fell in the freezer. And then now we have one that my wife has attached herself to.
A lot of people go out and buy hobby farms, but this is not
This is not a hobby farm. I signed up to go to the University of Vermont Artisan Cheese Program.
Oh, fantastic.
So I did all of that, and then I learned how to make cheese from there and just practice. And we're still in the experimental phase, so we're working on that and getting as much feedback as we possibly can.
I just thought you made amazing cheese.
No, we just have a little bit of fun.
You're living
The dream.
the dream.
All right, so we're working through the steps of cheese making.
And so what is this going to end up being?
So what we've got is a cheddar base, but it's a full cream cheddar base. So the full fat cheese actually helps wines taste better, more distinct. And that's what makes us a little bit different, is that we do not touch the fat content. That's what an artisan cheese is all about.
I like how you think.
I totally like how I think.
Oh, yeah. And how many cheeses do you make?
Last count was 17.
17 different kinds of cheese?
Yeah, well, we do 17 varieties because we will take a Gouda and smoke it. Or we'll smoke a Havarti, or we'll put something in something else. We'll have different varieties with different things in them.
And this is going to be your Robler special.
These are our Robler special.
Jerry's a great guy.
Absolutely, absolutely, and make some really fun wines.
Oh, there's your pig.
Hi, sweetie. So this is, I think, our mascot now.
What's his name?
Wilbur, of course.
Oh, Wilbur.
If he sees the food bucket, everything is fine. But if he sees you without a food bucket, he closes his eyes and acts like he's asleep. Because then you won't make him move.
Oh my God.
So come on in, see the girls. Hello, ladies. All cows have a cheese merit associated with them. The cheese merit's from 0 to 1,000. The highest cheese merit cow in the world is a bull named Zuma out of Denmark. Every cow in our herd has a relationship to Zuma. We have a cow that's going to compete with that Zuma on her cheese merit race.
That's amazing. So now that we've had a tour of this gorgeous farm, it's time to try the cheese. It's my favorite part.
The cheese that we're going to start out with is my version of Havarti.
It is sweet and nutty, so even though it's a mild cheese, it still has a really deep flavor.
So then we're going to move to a Gouda. For us, a Gouda is a little stronger, not as sweet. The answer to this Gouda is not by itself, the answer is a good old-fashioned pickle and cheese sandwich.
So the Gouda is not like any Gouda that I've had. The texture is like silky, velvety, it's beautiful.
It's that extra cream that you get into that.
Because you're not cutting the fat.
Because I'm not cutting the fat.
Oh, thank goodness you're not cutting the fat, it's delicious.
This last cheese is that Jersey Jack. So a Monterey Jack style cheese is a fat controlled cheese, wonderful cheese, good texture, holds up to a burger. This cheese does all of those things, except it's not fat controlled. So you can put it on that slider for that grass-based beef and things like that, and it holds up.
It has that wonderful tang to it and just a beautiful silky texture. This is what Monterey Jack should be.
So this cheese is a special cheese. This is a cheese that I'm probably the only maker in the United States. This is a Missouri special. This is a cheese named after here. It's a mixture of baby Swiss cheese and Halter or Gouda cheese.
That's intense. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you having fun? It's an intellectual pursuit for me as much as it is anything else. I really want to think about finding a cheese that I will enjoy making for the rest of my life, because once you get that cheese that people like, you're going to make that cheese over and over and over and over again.
It's like being a rock star.
Yeah, and
And
so
you
you
have
get
that
to sing that
song.
song.
Yeah. Thank you for opening up the creamery to us. It's really a special place.
He's totally a famous pig.
So we've had a chance to see what can be done with Jersey cow's milk, but of course, beautiful cheeses can be made with goat's milk as well. And all the cheeses in front of me were made by the folks over at Baetje, which is just steps from Chalmette Winery, and that's where we're headed next. Did you grow up on a farm? Is this something that you were introduced to as a grown-up, or how did all this come about?
Yeah, no, we grew up in South County in St. Louis. Can you believe it? My husband and I lived across the street from each other since we were 5 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And so when we were married, we moved over to Illinois and spent some time in a Mennonite community, had a big farm. That's when we first bought our first goat. And we just fell in love with the goats, with the whole ambiance of cheese making and the whole cycle of life.
That's incredible.
And we made a business out of it.
A Beachey cheese, would you say that it's a kind of an artisan French style? How would you explain that?
The interesting story with Baetje Farms is that we're in this beautiful historic French history area of St. Genevieve. And when we first got our goats, I really thought to myself, now who's making some really good cheese with goat milk? And I naturally thought of, the country of France. It was a beautiful combination. So what we're doing is something that you can't really find a lot of in the United States. We're really honored to be able to share this with the public. So we have a really cave-like atmosphere in our aging rooms.
Interesting.
It makes the cheeses very happy.
These are gorgeous.
So this would be our Bloomsdale. That's kind of our signature cheese. We've won a lot of awards for that. Part of the manufacturing process of this cheese, after we take it out of the molds, is we sprinkle a combination of ash and salt on the outside. And then the cheese will go into this room, and then it'll grow a rind on the outside and just continue to age.
Well, the wonderful thing about these types of goat cheeses is that they start out with that kind of chalky texture, and then as they age, they become wonderful, silky, almost gooey, and they're beautiful at any age. And I think the fun part is to be able to experience the entire process of what that flavor ripening is like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then what is this cheese back here?
We call that cheese miette, which means small sweet thing in French. It just won Super Gold at the World Cheese Awards in England this year.
Congratulations.
We're really excited.
That's huge.
Yeah, there was 2,720 that they judged, and only 50 get chosen for Super Gold.
And you were among the judges.
Yeah, from 30 countries.
That's amazing.
So that was really, really great. So this one is a blend of sheep and goat milk. I started to experiment with blending the sheep and the goat milk, and so this cheese was born out of that. Then we also do a chevre, and we do about 6 to 7 variations on that. Around Valentine's Day, we do chevre and a little heart. So this one is a dark chocolate raspberry. We grind up French chocolate and we mix in some raspberry puree, and voila.
Lovely.
Then we also do a marinated feta. And then this cheese here is similar to like a reblochon. We call this fleur de la vallée, which means flower of the valley. We do a little camembert style we call coeur de clos, which means heart of the enclosed field.
Every cheese of yours that I've had is absolutely wonderful, and it has a real sense of place, which I think is very much in the style of an artisan French cheese.
Oh, kitty. Oh, I'm in heaven now. Okay, we've got a puppy and goats and a cat. Is there a specific breed of goat, or I mean, how does that work? Like, there are different breeds of cows or chickens?
The breed of these goats are Sonnens, and they originated in the Sonnen Valley in Switzerland. These are really hardy goats. They're really heavy milk producers. You're going to have animals that are lactating. They're going to need higher percentage of protein and nutrients than at any other stage of their life. And so we give them all-natural grain ration that's custom formulated for us. We're using organic minerals, all-natural salts, and then we're feeding them locally grown alfalfa hay. We're trying to be as all-natural as we can be.
I love cheese so much, and I know what's exciting to me is to be able to come to a place like Beachey and see how you approach the art and like the craft of creating these things.
The cheese here that we manufacture is made from just a few ingredients. It's milk, salt, rennet, and culture. When you read our label, you don't see a lot of words you can't pronounce. It's really short and to the point.
That's the way food should be.
That's the way food should be, exactly.
Being on the farms, that is one of the best parts of doing this work. And the craft cheese movement is just, it's so much fun because you take that one ingredient, that milk, and it can turn into so many different things. So if you, like me, enjoy experimenting at home, I'm gonna show you how to make fresh ricotta. And then we're going to fill house-made ravioli with that. And all of it is going to be paired with a Vidal Blanc from Baltimore Bend, which is a lovely winery in the state of Missouri. And it's not going to overwhelm the delicate flavors of that ricotta. Making ricotta is incredibly easy. All you need is milk, cream, and acid, and salt. I'm gonna take this milk, and this happens to be what's called cream line milk, and all that means is that it's not homogenized. The reason why I'm using this is because when you homogenize milk, milk is very delicate and it does impact the flavor, and so I want the milk to have the creamiest, freshest flavor possible. And then we're also going to add a cup of heavy cream. So I'm gonna go ahead and slowly heat this up, just on kind of medium-high. You also want to add in about a teaspoon of salt. So the cream is just starting to come to a boil. It's got a nice foamy surface on the top, and I want to stir it at this point so it doesn't scorch. I'm going to let it boil for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to add in the lemon juice. All it needs is that acid to pull all of those proteins and those fats away from the whey. All right, so you can see we are at the boiling point. I want to turn it down. I don't want it to boil over. It could if you weren't careful. I'm going to go ahead and slice up my lemon. The texture of the milk is changing, and as it sits and simmers, you're going to see that it all just starts to curdle, which is something that you don't want when you're making a sauce, but you definitely want when you're making cheese. This is cheesecloth. You can find it in just about any grocery store. What I have here is just a colander inside of a bowl, and I'm gonna line the colander with a layer of the cheesecloth. And then I'm gonna just dump this in, and then all you do is let it sit and drain for at least an hour. And because of the gravity, it's gonna pull all that whey down and away from the curds and allow it to separate. Now I'm gonna make my pasta. I'm gonna start with just 3.5 cups of flour. I'm gonna mound it directly onto my surface here. Make a hole in the center, a well, essentially. All right, now it's just 4 eggs, just a couple tablespoons of water, some extra virgin olive oil, and then a little bit of salt. So here I am just gently incorporating the eggs, and you'll kind of see that the flour is something like a moat that's holding all the liquid in. And I am pulling just a little bit of flour at a time into the liquid. What that's doing is it's allowing all of this to become essentially more solid so that when I do start working it into a dough, it doesn't roll all over the countertop. Gradually, this is all going to come together into a cohesive dough. And what we want to do is work it until it's elastic. And don't be afraid to add a little bit of water as you're going. Use your instinct. If it doesn't feel quite right, it probably isn't quite right. This is where some upper arm strength really comes in handy. Here we have a really nice, elastic, dense dough. And what I need to do now is just wrap it up in some plastic wrap and let it sit for about 30 minutes. And so while this is resting, before I roll it out, I'm gonna go ahead and mix the herbs and cheeses into my ricotta. Parmigiano Reggiano and then Pecorino Romano. So I'm going for about half a cup here and half a cup on the other cheese as well. Add in a little bit of salt and a good dose of pepper. And now I'm just gonna chop up some herbs and throw those in. Okay, my pasta is rested, and I'm just gonna cut off a tiny piece, roll this into a ball. The way that a pasta machine works, I have this currently set on 0, and as I move this up, the rollers get closer and closer together, which means that the pasta, with each pass, gets thinner and thinner. So here's just a little bit of egg wash, and what I'm going to do is just put this right around the perimeter of the filling, and this is just going to help the pasta to stick together. Fold this over, press down around the filling. Take your stamp. All you have to do is press down, stamp it out, and there you go. Okay, my water's at a boil. These guys are delicate, so I want it to just be at a nice simmer. Fresh pasta cooks very fast. I'm gonna dress this very, very simply because I want the flavors of that filling to really shine through. A little drizzle of olive oil and also just some of this gorgeous basil, and then just a tiny little grate of cheese. I'm gonna pair this really delicate dish with an equally delicate wine. This is a Vidal Blanc from Baltimore Bend Vineyard. Wine and cheese go beautifully together, so cheers, and I'll see you next time.